Hey there. Hello again. It's a strange thing, history. The official version, the one we learn from heavy books, is a story of grand movements. It's a chronicle of kings and queens, of sweeping battles that reshape borders, and great minds that reshape ideas. It's a history of noise, of spectacle, of events so large they cast shadows across centuries. But there's another history, a quieter one, that unfolds in the shadows cast by those great events. It's the history of the ordinary, the overlooked, the people who are simply there, living through it all. It's the history of the immense, silent majority whose names are lost, but whose experiences were the very fabric of the past. Tonight, we're going to step into one of those quiet corners. We're not here to talk about the Black Death as a statistic, a turning point in demographics and economics. We're here to feel what it might have been like for one person tasked with facing it hour by hour, day by day. We are going to explore the world of the medieval plague doctor. If this kind of calm, slow history helps you unwind, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it genuinely brings you peace. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is right now. It's always strangely comforting to see who's out there falling asleep to the same quiet story, scattered across the world, but connected for a little while. In the dark so dim, the lights. Turn on a fan if you like that soft background hum. Settle in and let's begin. You are here, but where is here? It is not a place you would recognize from your maps of Europe. It is a city, yes, but the word city conjures images of stone and order, of commerce and culture. What you inhabit is something more primal, more organic, a labyrinth of timber, wattle, and daub huddled together as if for warmth against the vast, indifferent sky. Imagine you are standing in an alley. Look up. The sky is not a wide open expanse. It is a sliver of bruised gray, a jagged tear in the fabric of the world, visible between the leaning shoulders of the houses above. The upper floors, or jetties, extend out over the street, each one reaching further than the one below, so that the buildings almost kiss in the middle. They block the sun, ensuring that the ground where you stand is trapped in a perpetual damp twilight, even at midday. The light that does trickle down is thin and weak, the color of old dishwater, rendering the world in shades of brown, gray, and murky green. This is the dominant color palette of your world, the dark, weathered umber of timber, the sickly beige, of daub walls stained with soot and damp, the slick, greasy gray of the cobblestones where they exist. More often, the ground beneath your feet is simply packed earth, a cold, clammy mud that never truly dries. It has a particular smell, this mud. It is not the clean, earthy scent of a forest floor. It is a sour, complex aroma, a mixture of wet, clay, human, and animal waste, rotting straw, and something else, a faint, sweetish undertone of decay that seems to seep from the very soil. This is the foundational note in the symphony of smells that defines your existence. Breathe in. The air itself is heavy, thick, and wet. You can feel it on your skin, a cool, greasy film. It carries the scent of wood smoke, which is a constant, clinging to your clothes and the inside of your nostrils. It is a harsh, acrid smoke, born of damp logs and cheap peat, and it stings the eyes. Beneath the smoke is the ever-present odor of humanity pressed too close together. The unwashed sweat of bodies, the stale temps of urine, the sharp stink of the tannery down the lane, where hides are being scraped and cured in vats of caustic lime and animal dung. From the butcher's stall, a few streets over, comes the coppery, metallic smell of blood and the buzzing of flies, a sound so constant it has become a part of the silence. And then there is the miasma, the plague air. They have been taught that this is the cause of the great pestilence. Not the rats you see skittering along the base of the walls, their sleek bodies disappearing into holes. Not the fleas that infest every scrap of cloth and bedding. No, it is the air itself, the corrupted atmosphere. And because of this belief, every smell becomes a potential threat. You find yourself analyzing every gust of wind. Does that breeze from the river carry salvation or sickness? Does the stench from that pile of refuse conceal a dagger for your lungs? You start to hold your breath as you pass certain corners, your shoulders tensed, your heart beating a little faster. The world of scent is no longer a source of information. It is a landscape of fear. Now, listen. The sounds of the city are as layered as the smells. The dominant sound is not the chatter of people. In these times, a hush has fallen. The loudest, most persistent sound is the tolling of bells. There is the great bell of the cathedral, a deep, resonant gong that marks the hours and calls the faithful to prayer, its sound rolling over the rooftops like a wave of bronze. But now it is joined by the smaller, more frantic bells of the parish churches. They ring for the dead, constant, near and broken chain of peals, announcing another soul departed, another body to be collected. The sound is so frequent that you almost stop hearing it, but it registers somewhere deep in your mind, a constant, tolling reminder of the crisis. Beneath the bells, there is the creak and groan of the city itself, the sigh of timber beams settling, the rattle of a loose shutter in the wind, the distant rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer, sound of normalcy that now seems jarringly out of place. You hear the slosh and drip of water, or worse, of refuse, being tossed from an upper window into the central gutter of the street, a channel known as a kennel. A shout of Gardaloo, a warning to those below, is sometimes offered, but not always. There are human sounds, but they are muted, furtive. You hear a muffled sobbing from behind a closed door, a low, desperate prayer, the sharp hacking cough of someone in the final stages of the illness, a sound that makes you flinch and pull your cloak tighter. The normal sounds of a thriving city, the shouts of merchants hawking their wares, the laughter of children playing games, the drunken singing from a tavernar, gone. They have been replaced by the shuffle of feet, the whisper of urgent, fearful conversations, and the creak of the death cart's wheels. This cart is a sound that slices through all others. It is a low, heavy, grinding noise. The groan of an ungreased axle, the clatter of wooden wheels on uneven stones, the occasional thud of its grim cargo shifting, and accompanying it, the cry of the cart driver, a voice made raw and hollow by his work. Bring out your dead, your dead. The boundaries of your world feel incredibly tight. The city walls, once a symbol of protection, now feel like the bars of a cage, trapping everyone inside with the sickness. To travel beyond them is to risk being denied re-entry, or to find the next town, the next village, in the same desperate state. Your world has shrunk to these few dozen streets, these alleys choked with fear. The claustrophobia is a physical weight. The overhanging buildings press down, the thick air is hard to draw into your lungs, and the relentless noise of the bells seems to shrink the very space around you. The city is not a home. It is a tomb in the making, and you are one of the few who dares to walk its corridors. Watching it die, you push open the heavy oak door to your dwelling, and the sounds of the street recede, replaced by a dense herbal quiet. This is your shelter, but it is also your workshop, your apothecary, and your prison. The city has provided you with this space as part of your contract. It is a small mercy, a recognition of the risks you take, but it is a space tainted by its purpose. The room is on the ground floor, chosen for its grim convenience. There is no need for you to trouble healthy families by sharing a common stairwell. You can come and go, a ghost in a beaked mask, without causing undue panic. The air inside is cooler than the street, and it carries a different, more deliberate smell. The sour stench of the city is still there, an unwelcome guest that seeps in under the door and through the cracks in the window shutters, powered by another set of aromas. There is the sharp, clean scent of vinegar, which you use to wash your hands, your tools, and your coins. There is the heady, pungent smell of dried herbs hanging in dusty bunches from the low, smoke-blackened ceiling beams, lavender, mint, camphor, cloves, and wormwood. Their fragrance is your shield, your attempt to create a bubble of pure air in a world of miasma. And beneath it all, the sweet, cloying scent of melting wax from the tallow candles that provide your only light. Look around the single room. The floor is made of wide, rough-hewn wooden planks. They are uneven and splintered, and the gaps between them are dark with a century of accumulated dirt. No amount of sweeping can truly clean them. You know that if you were to lift one, you would find nothing but cold, damp earth beneath. The walls are wattle and daub, a mesh of woven sticks packed with a mixture of clay, straw, and animal dung. They are whitewashed, but the wash is old and peeling, revealing the grim, brown plaster beneath. In the winter, a damp cold radiates from them, a cold that sinks deep into your bones. In the summer, they bake in the heat, releasing a dry, dusty smell. There is one window, small and covered, not with glass, which is a luxury for the wealthy, but with a pair of heavy wooden shutters. You keep them closed most of the time to keep out the corrupted air of the street. This plunges the room into a near total darkness, broken only by the flickering, uncertain light of a candle or the dull red glow of the embers in the small stone hearth. This hearth is the heart of the room. It is where you boil your water, heat your strange concoctions, and huddle for a desperate, inadequate warmth. Your possessions are few, and each one is defined by its function. In one corner stands a simple wooden cot. The mattress is a coarse linen sack stuffed with straw. It rustles every time you move, and you know from bitter experience that it is home to more than just straw. Fleas are a simple fact of life. Beside The cot is a small, three-legged stool and a rough wooden chest, which holds your few changes of clothing, a spare linen shirt, woolen breeches, and stockings. They all smell of herbs and wood smoke. But the most important objects are on the large, sturdy table that dominates the center of the room. This is your workspace. Here lie the tools of your trade. Lay your hand on the costume, the iconic silhouette of fear and some whisper of hope. The cloak is first. It is made of heavy, waxed canvas, a thick, stiff material that drapes over you, from shoulder to ankle. Its purpose is to be impervious, to prevent the pestilential air from touching your skin or your clothes beneath. It is slick and cool to the touch, and it smells of beeswax and resin. Then there is the mask. Pick it up. It is made of boiled leather, hardened and shaped into its terrifying avian form. The two eye holes are fitted with small, round panes of red glass. You have been told the red glass will protect you from the evil eye and shield you from the sight of the suffering that could break your spirit. The most prominent feature, of course, is the long, hollow beak, nearly half a foot long. It feels clumsy and strange in your hands. This beak is not for show. It is a portable apothecary, a personal fumigation device. You stuff its tip with the theriac, complex and fragrant blend of more than 50 ingredients. Crushed herbs like mint and cloves, strong-smelling spices, pieces of camphor, a vinegar-soaked sponge, and sometimes, if you are lucky, rare and expensive substances like ambergris or laudanum. When you wear the mask, every breath you take is filtered through this pungent potpourri. The smell is overwhelming, medicinal, and sharp. It is the smell of your survival. On the table, beside the mask, are the other tools. There is a long wooden wand or cane. You use it to examine patients without having to touch them directly. You can use it to point to lift their bedclothes, to feel for the telltale swellings, the buboes in their groin or armpits. It is an extension of your arm, a tool of distance. You see a collection of lancets and scalpels, their steel blades gleaming dully in the candlelight. These are for the most desperate and brutal of your treatments, the lancing of the buboes. You believe that by draining the black, putrid pus from these swellings, you can release the poison from the body. It is a painful, often futile procedure, but it is one of the few active interventions you can perform. Next to them are glass or horn cups, used for cupping therapy, another method to try and draw the sickness out of the body. You heat the cup to create a vacuum and place it on the skin, hoping the suction will pull the corrupted humors to the surface. There are also small leather pouches and earthenware jars. These contain your pharmacy, powdered frog's legs, crushed unicorn horn, or what the merchant sold you as such, arsenic, mercury, and various herbal tinctures. You understand these remedies through the lens of humoral theory, the belief that the body is governed by four fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Sickness is an imbalance of these humors, and your goal is to restore that balance through bleeding, purging, and these strange, often toxic prescriptions. Your relationship with these objects is intimate and constant. The weight of the waxed, cloak on your shoulders is a familiar burden. The claustrophobic smell of the herbs inside your mask is the air you breathe for hours on end. The cool, smooth wood of the examining cane is an extension of your will. These are not just tools, they are your armor. They are the fragile barrier you place between yourself and a world that has gone mad with disease. Every morning when you put on the costume, it is a ritual. You are no longer just a man. You become a symbol, a creature of medicine and mystery. And as you latch the leather straps of the mask behind your head, the world outside goes dim and red, and the only sound is your own muffled breathing, drawn through a filter of fear and herbs. Sunrise does not happen for you. Gradual lessening of the deep dark into a murky gray that filters through your shuttered window. Your day begins not with the light, but with a ritual. You rise from your straw mattress, your back stiff and your limbs cold. You eat a piece of hard bread, chewing it slowly, mechanically, washing it down with a cup of ale, which is safer to drink than the water. Then you begin the slow process of becoming the doctor. The linen shirt and woolen breeches first, then the high leather boots, then the slow, heavy draping of the waxed canvas cloak. It settles on your shoulders with a familiar weight, a constant reminder of your purpose. You tie the leather thongs at your neck. Finally, the mask. You take a moment to check the herbs in the beak, pushing them down with your finger, ensuring the scent will be strong. You lift it to your face. The world dissolves into a circle of dim, red-tinted light. The smells of your room vanished, replaced by the intense, overwhelming perfume of your portable garden. The sounds of the world become muffled, distant. Own breathing is now the loudest sound you hear. You pick up your cane, your bag of tools and potions, and you open the door. This is what you do. You walk. You walk. Your work is not confined to an office or a hospital. Your parish is the entire city, or at least the section of it assigned to you by the town council that pays your salary. You walk the silent, empty streets, your footsteps and the tap of your cane echoing strangely in the quiet. People see you coming. The few who are still healthy on the street shrink away. They press themselves into doorways. They cross to the other side. They pull their own cloaks up over their faces. They don't meet your red glass eyes. To them, you are not a savior. You are an omen, a harbinger of the sickness, a figure who walks hand in hand with death. Their fear is a physical thing, a wave that parts before you. Your first calls are often to the houses of the wealthy, the merchants, the guild masters. Their doors are opened by a terrified servant who quickly steps back, leaving you to find your own way. The air inside these houses is different, thick with the smell of desperation. The families have tried everything. They have burned expensive juniper and incense in every room. The air is hazy with fragrant smoke. They have prayed to every saint. But the plague is no respecter of wealth. You enter the bedchamber. It is dark. The heavy velvet curtains drawn tight. The family stands clustered in the far corner, their faces pale masks of dread. On the large four-poster bed, the patient lies, sweating and shivering on linen sheets. You approach slowly, your cane extended before you. You do not speak. The mask makes your voice a strange, filtered boom. And silence is more comforting than that. With the tip of your cane, you lift the sheep. The physical work begins here, but it is a work of observation, of careful, distant examination. You are looking for the tokens, the buboes, the telltale swellings in the neck, the armpit, the groin, that give the pestilence its name. They are hard, painful lumps, sometimes as large as an egg. Their skin stretched tight and discolored, turning a bruised purple, then black. You see, the petechia, the dark spots on the skin caused by bleeding beneath it, scattered across the patient's chest and arms. They looked like sprinkled flecks of black dust, a sign that the poison is deep within the blood. Sometimes the family will beg you to do something, to lance the bubo. This is the most physically demanding and the most horrifying part of your labor. You take out your scalpel. The steel is cold in your gloved hand. You lean over the patient, the herbs in your beak almost failing to cover. The foul stench of the diseased body, you must be precise. You make a swift, deep cut. There is a gasp of pain from the patient, a sob from the family, a thick, black, putrid fluid. The consistency of rotten jelly oozes from the incision. It smells unspeakable. You work quickly, using a cloth to wipe it away, applying a poultice of clay and herbs to the wound. The ache begins in your lower back, a dull throb from leaning over the bed. Your muscles tend. You offer no words of comfort, no false hope. You cannot, no. And they know that this is almost certainly a death sentence. Take. Their coin your contract allows you to charge extra for these special consultations, and you leave. The money feels heavy and dirty in your purse. Then you move on to the houses of the poor. Here, the scenes are even more grim. There is no servant to open the door. You enter hovels where entire families share a single room, a single bed. The sickness spreads through them like fire through dry thatch. Here you find not one patient, but 3, 4, 5. A mother dead in her bed, her baby still trying to nurse at her cold breast. A father delirious with fever, thrashing on a pile of rags in the corner. Children with the dark spots already blooming on their skin. The physical effort here is different. It is the effort of navigating squalor, of not stumbling in the dark, of not breathing too deeply, even through your mask. The monotony is crushing. The symptoms are always the same. The outcome is always the same. Each house is a new verse in the same sad, terrible song. The high fever, the vomiting of blood, the delirium, the swellings, the spots, the stench, the death. Your back aches. Your feet, encased in their leather boots, are sore from the endless walking on hard, uneven ground. Sweat collects inside your waxed cloak, making your clothes beneath damp and clammy. The leather straps of the mask chafe the back of your head. A headache throbs behind your red glass eyes. A combination of the herbal fumes, the stress, and the sorrow you refuse to acknowledge. Hour after hour, you walk, you observe, you lance, you listen to the muffled cries of the dying. You are a record keeper. Part of your job is to log the number of infected for the city officials. You are a witness. You are a functionary of death. The work is not physically strenuous in the way of a blacksmith or a farmer, but it grinds you down in a different way. It is the unceasing rhythm of walking into rooms filled with despair, and then walking out again, leaving the despair behind you, only to carry its shadow with you to the next house, and the next, and the next. As the sun begins its slow descent, a sun you have barely seen, you turn your heavy feet back towards your own small room. The weight of all the suffering you have witnessed settling upon you like a second cloak. The day's labor is done, but the body's needs are relentless. Hunger, a simple and primal urge, asserts itself even in a world saturated with death. But for you, food is not a pleasure. It is not a source of comfort or community. It is a daily problem to be solved, a constant, nagging negotiation with fear. Everything you eat, everything you drink is suspect. The miasma, the corrupted air, is believed to settle on all things. It can cling to a loaf of bread, contaminate a cask of water, poison a piece of fruit. Every meal is a risk, a calculated gamble. Your sustenance is governed by a set of careful, lonely rituals designed to purify and protect. You do not go to the market. The marketplace, once the vibrant heart of the city, is now a place of profound danger, a nexus where the sick and the healthy might mingle. Your contract with the city provides you with a stipend, and you have an arrangement. A boy, the son of a man whose family you once treated unsuccessfully. Of course, but you were there, and that was something, leaves a basket for you. He places it on the street, 10 paces from your door, and then runs off. Only after he is gone do you open your door and retrieve it. Inside the basket is your ration. It is simple, unvarying, and chosen for its perceived safety. The staple of your diet is bread, not the soft, warm, crusty loaf of a baker's oven. Your bread is hardtack, or something close to it. A dense, unleavened biscuit made of flour, water, and salt, baked until it is nearly as hard as a rock. It is durable. It is believed to be less susceptible to the clinging miasma than a soft, airy bread. To eat it, you must break it apart with your hands, a task that requires effort, and then soak the pieces in ale or wine until they are soft enough to chew. The texture is gritty and coarse, the taste overwhelmingly of stale flour and salt. Alongside the bread there is cheese, a hard-aged cheese, its rind thick and waxy. Like the bread, its density and dryness are seen as virtues. It is sharp, salty, and pungent. You cut off small pieces with your knife, scraping away the outermost layer just in case, and eat them slowly. This is your primary source of fat and protein. Sometimes there is a piece of salted meat or fish, a slab of bacon cured in salt until it is stiff and dark, or a salted herring, its skin gray and its flesh dense and oily. The salt is a powerful preservative, a shield against decay, and therefore, you believe, against the plague. The preparation is a ritual in itself. You must soak the meat or fish in several changes of water to draw out the brutal, overpowering saltiness. Even so, the taste is intense, a flavor that floods your mouth and lingers for hours. It makes you profoundly thirsty. And what of drink? Water is the most dangerous substance of all. The city's wells are shared by everyone. The river that flows through the town is a common sewer. Out too. You believe the vapors rising from this water are a primary source of the pestilence, so you do not drink it plain. You have a small cask of ale in your room. It is a thin, weak, small beer, low in alcohol. But the brewing process, the boiling of the water is thought to cleanse it. It is your primary source of hydration. You also have wine, often watered down. The wine, like vinegar, is considered a purifier. You sometimes use it to wash your hands or wipe down your food before you eat. You prepare your meal alone in the flickering gloom of your room. You build up the fire in the hearth. If you have some onions or a tough root vegetable like a turnip, you might chop them up along with the soaked bread and a piece of the salted bacon and boil it all together in an iron pot over the fire. This creates a pottage, a thick grayish stew. The texture is a uniform mush. The flavor, a simple medley of salt, smoke, and the faint sweetness of the onion. You eat it directly from the pot with a wooden spoon, sitting on your stool, your back. To the door, there is no variety. Day after day, it is the same: hard bread, hard cheese, salted meat, weak ale. Fruits and fresh vegetables are a rarity and a terror. A soft apple, a juicy pear, their very moisture seems to be a vessel for the sickness. You might receive one and hold it in your hand, admiring its color and form, before deciding the risk is too great. You might instead choose to purify it by roasting it in the embers of your fire until its skin is blackened and its flesh is a soft, hot pulp. The taste of its natural sweetness, muted by the smoke and char, is a shocking, momentary pleasure in a world of blandness. Food is not about enjoyment. It is about fueling the machine of your body so you can continue your work. The process of eating is joyless, functional, and solitary. You chew slowly, deliberately, thinking about the properties of the food. You are not tasting, you are analyzing. Is this cheese dry enough? Has this bread been baked long enough? Is this ale clean? The constant battle against hunger is intertwined with the constant battle against fear. Each meal is a small victory. Another day survived. Another evening where you have not, through your own sustenance, invited the plague into your body. You finish your meager pottage, the scraping of your spoon against the iron pot loud in the quiet room, and the gnawing in your stomach is replaced by a heavy, leaden feeling of fullness, a simple, joyless truce in the long war against starvation. You are a doctor, a man of medicine, but you are not a man of high station. You are a municipal employee, a functionary, hired for a dangerous and specific task. You do not serve patients, not in the gentle pastoral sense. You serve a contract. You serve the city council. These are the men who hired you. The alderman, the mayor, the wealthy guild masters who govern the city. You see them perhaps once a week in a large cold stone chamber in the town hall. It is one of the few places you go that is not a house of the sick. But even here, fear dictates the arrangement. You are not invited to sit at their grand table. You stand at the far end of the room near the door, a solitary figure in your strange costume. You have removed your mask as a sign of respect, but you keep your waxed cloak on. The council members sit at a great distance, their chairs pushed back, some holding scented handkerchiefs to their faces, as if your very presence contaminates the air. Their relationship to you is one of pure utility. You are a tool, a necessary evil. They do not look at you with respect, as they might a learned physician from the university who tends only to the rich in normal times. They look at you with a mixture of fear and disdain. You are a constant reminder of the crisis that has overwhelmed their tidy, prosperous world. You are the man who deals in the filth and horror they wish to ignore. The conversation is brief and impersonal. They do not ask about your well-being. They ask for numbers. How many new cases this week, doctor? How many deaths in the parish of St. Giles? Is the sickness spreading to the wool merchants district? Give your report. Your voice is flat, devoid of emotion. You list the streets, the numbers, the grim tally. You are a ledger of death. You describe what you have seen, but you do not describe the terror, the grief, the suffering. These are not data points. They have no place in this room. Your job is to provide them with the information they need to maintain order, to manage the crisis. Are there enough carters for the dead? Do the watchmen need to board up more houses? Should the city gates be closed to all travelers? The weight of their authority is a palpable thing. It is in the stone walls of the hall, the fine robes they wear, the calm, commanding tones they use, so different from the weeping and wailing that fills your days. They hold the power of life and death, not just over the sick, but over you. Your contract is specific. You are paid a salary, a handsome one, by the standards of an ordinary laborer, but it comes with conditions. You are forbidden to leave this city until the plague has passed. You are required to perform your duties without question. You are, in essence, their property for the duration of the pestilence. This power manifests in small daily realities. The stipend for your food and lodging is dispensed by a clerk who will not touch your hand, who leaves the coins on a dish of vinegar for you to collect. The authority is in the watchman who lets you pass through the streets after curfew, not out of respect, but because he knows who you are, the city's man. It is in the fear that if you were to refuse to enter a particularly dangerous hovel, or if you were to fall ill yourself, you would be replaced without a second thought, your body tossed onto the same death cart as your former patients. There is a profound distance between you and these men. They live in a world of politics, of economics, of preserving the city as an institution. You live in a world of symptoms, of dying bodies, of individual agonizing ends. You are the bridge between their clean, ordered world and the chaos that laps at its edges, and they resent you for it. You also exist in a strange social limbo with the clergy. The parish priests, in theory, are responsible for the souls of the dying, but many are overwhelmed, frightened, or have already succumbed to the illness themselves. When you enter a home, you sometimes find a priest there, administering the last rites. There is a silent tension between you. He is there for the soul. You are there for the body. His tools are prayer, holy water, and Latin. Your tools are a scalpel, a pot of herbs, and a long wooden cane. You represent two different forms of authority, two different responses to the same catastrophe. You nod to each other, a brief acknowledgement of your shared, terrible work, but you do not speak. He is trying to guide the soul to heaven. You are trying, futilely, to anchor it to this world. Sometimes, the families seem torn, their eyes flicking, between the priest's crucifix and your beaked mask, unsure which holds the greater power or the greater terror. The hierarchy is clear. God is at the top, though his presence feels distant and inscrutable. Below him is the church, represented by the priest. Then comes the secular power of the city council, the men of wealth and influence who command you. And then there is you, a strange hybrid figure, more than a common man, but less than a true physician, respected for your supposed knowledge, but shunned for your association with death. You are caught between worlds, between the living and the dead, the rich and the poor, the secular and the sacred. You serve them all, yet you belong to none of them. You are utterly alone, a solitary agent of an indifferent power structure, walking its decaying streets and counting its dead. Your work is a battle against a physical disease, a sickness of the body that you can see and smell. But you are also fighting another war, a silent internal struggle against a threat that has no physical form. This is the world of abstract fear, a landscape of belief and superstition that is as real to you as the cobblestones beneath your feet. This is what you fear. You fear the air. This is the cornerstone of your medical understanding and your deepest terror. You believe the great pestilence is a miasma, a poisonous vapor, a bad air that rises from the earth, from swamps, from stagnant water, and from the bodies of the dead. You imagine it as an invisible cloud, a foul-smelling fog that drifts through the streets, seeping through doors and windows, looking for a body to invade. This belief transforms the world. Every natural process becomes sinister. The morning mist rising from the river is not a thing of beauty. It is a shroud of poison. The gentle breeze that rustles the leaves of the city's few trees might be carrying death on its currents. A foul smell from a butcher's offal pile or a tanner's pit is not just unpleasant. It is a direct assault. This is why you wear your mask, why you surround yourself with the scent of herbs. You are trying to create a small pocket of good air, to breathe in a world drowned in bad. You fear a sudden gust of wind, a strange odor, a humid night. You fear the very atmosphere you need to survive. You fear the will of God. The priests preach from their pulpits that the plague is a divine punishment, a scourge sent by God to chastise a sinful world. You see the evidence of this sin everywhere in the greed of the merchants, the lust of the young, the pride of the powerful. You look at your own life and wonder about your own failings. Have you been proud? Have you been greedy for the cities? Pay. Each time you enter a new house of sickness, a small, cold voice in the back of your mind asks, why them and not me? Is it their sin? Or is it mine? And my punishment is to be the witness to it all, to it all. This fear of divine wrath is paralyzing. It suggests that your work is ultimately futile. How can your lancets and herbs stand against the judgment of the Almighty? Perhaps lancing a bubo is an act of defiance against God's will, perhaps by trying to save a life. You are interfering with a holy sentence. This thought is a heavy stone in your gut. It makes your hand hesitate before you make an incision. It fills you with a sense of profound, cosmic impotence. You are a tiny figure raging against a storm sent by God Himself. You fear the unseen forces, the smaller, more personal evils that operate in the shadows of God's grand judgment. You fear the evil eye, the malocchio, a glance from a spiteful neighbor, an old woman with a grudge, or a stranger on the street could carry a curse that sickens the body. This is why your mask has red glass lenses. Red is the color of fire and blood. It is a color of power, believed to deflect such malevolent gazes. You avoid looking directly into people's eyes, not just out of a desire for distance, but out of a genuine fear of what a look can transmit. You fear ghosts and spirits. You believe that the air is thick, not just with miasma, but with the unhappy souls of the plague's victims, those who died unshriven, without a priest to hear their final confession, are thought to be trapped between worlds, wandering the earth, in confusion and anger. You walk the streets at dusk, the time when the veil between worlds is thinnest, and every flicker of shadow, every rustle in a dark alley becomes a potential encounter. You hear a moan on the wind and wonder if it is just the wind, or if it is the cry of a soul you failed to save. The city is becoming a vast, open graveyard, and you feel as though you are walking among its legions of silent, invisible residents. To combat these fears, you rely on a tapestry of folk remedies, charms, and rituals. They are as much a part of your medicine as your scalpels. Before you leave your room, you make the sign of the cross. You carry a small pouch on your belt filled with salt and a shard of iron to ward off evil spirits. You mutter a small prayer or a protective charm under your breath before you enter a house. You advise families to hang onions and herbs over their doors, not just to purify the air, but to repel demonic forces. You might prescribe a remedy that involves writing a holy word on a piece of paper and having the patient swallow it, believing the sacred word itself has healing power. These beliefs are not separate from your scientific understanding of the plague. They are woven inextricably through it. The miasma is a physical manifestation of a spiritual corruption. The evil eye is a vehicle for the disease. The herbs in your mask are both a chemical filter and a magical ward. Your fear is a complex, multi-layered thing. It is the fear of the visible symptom and the invisible cause, the fear of the infected body and the angry God, the fear of the stench of decay, and the whisper of a ghost. This psychological landscape is as treacherous and as exhausting to navigate as the city streets themselves. It is a constant humming dread that underlies every action you take, every breath you draw through your fragrant mask. Night does not fall in your world. It floods it. Without the sun, the city is plunged into a darkness that is almost absolute. The sliver of sky between the leaning houses vanishes, and the world shrinks to the tiny, flickering bubble of light cast by your single tallow candle. The darkness outside your shuttered window feels like a solid thing, a black ocean pressing against the walls of your small room. The cold deepens. The stone hearth, which offered a meager warmth during the day, now seems to suck the heat from the room. The dampness in the walls becomes a palpable chill that seeps through your clothes and settles deep in your bones. You huddle closer to the embers, feeding them a few last pieces of wood, not for light, but for a desperate, fading warmth. When the candle burns down to a sputtering stub and threatens to extinguish itself, it is time for rest. Sleep is not a gentle escape. It is a surrender to the dark and the cold. You remove your heavy cloak, the release of its weight, a small, fleeting relief. You take off your boots, but you sleep in the rest of your clothes for warmth. You lie down. On your cot, the straw-filled mattress crackles and shifts under your weight. It is a lumpy, uneven surface. You can feel the individual stalks through the coarse linen, some of them poking into your back and legs. The smell of the straw is dry and dusty, mingling with the faint, ever-present scent of the herbs and smoke that cling to everything you own. You pull a rough, scratchy wool blanket over yourself. It is heavy, but provides little comfort. Its loose weave doing little to trap your body heat. The cold air finds its way through. Privacy is not a concept you would understand. You are fortunate to sleep alone, a rare luxury afforded by your grim profession. In the houses you visit, you see entire families huddled together on a single, large pallet of straw on the floor. Parents, children, grandparents, all sharing the same space, the same blanket, the same breath. In a time of plague, this communal sleeping arrangement becomes a death sentence, a way for the sickness to pass from one to the other in the dark. Your solitude, which is a curse during the day, becomes a blessing at night as you lie there. In the profound, silent dark, the noises of the night take on a new significance. The city is not truly silent. You hear the scuttling of rats in the walls and beneath the floorboards, their tiny claws making scratching sounds. You hear the distant, mournful howl of a dog, a sound that seems to speak of the city's collective sorrow, and always intermittently, the tolling of a bell from a parish church, a reminder that death does not sleep. Each peal is a punctuation mark in the long, dark sentence of the night. You do not expect to sleep through until morning. The pattern of sleep is different in your time. It is a broken, segmented thing. You will likely sleep for a few hours, in what is known as the first sleep. Then, somewhere in the middle of the night, you will wake. This period of quiet wakefulness, lasting an hour or more, is a normal part of the night's rhythm. It is a time for reflection, for prayer, for quiet chores by the hearth's glow. For you, this waking period is often the hardest part of the day. As you lie there in the blackness, your body still and your mind active, the day's horrors return. To you, you see the faces of the dying, not as a blur, but in sharp, vivid detail. The fear on a young mother's face, the delirious, unseeing eyes of an old man, the dark, telltale spots on the skin of a child. The images play over and over in your mind, a silent, tormenting procession. The smells come back to youth, a cloying sweetness of decay, the foulness of a lanced bubo, so strongly that you almost think they are in the room with you. This is when the psychological weight of your labor feels heaviest, when there are no distractions, no tasks to perform, only the vast, empty darkness in your memories. Sometimes, in this quiet hour, You get up and add a log to the fire, sitting on your stool and watching the flames, your mind empty. Sometimes you pray. The Latin phrases a familiar, comforting cadence in the silence, even if you doubt anyone is listening. Eventually, your eyelids grow heavy again, and you lie back down, seeking the oblivion of the second sleep. Is often deeper, and it is here that you dream. Dreams are not idle fantasies. They are considered significant, powerful things. They can be omens from God, temptations from the devil, or visitations from the dead. You might dream of walking through a field of flowers, and you will wake with a feeling of hope, wondering if it is a sign that the plague will soon end. Or you might dream, as you often do, of drowning, of being pulled under a thick, black water, and you will wake up in a cold sweat, your heart pounding, the scratchy wool blanket feeling like a leaden shroud. You analyze these dreams, searching them for meaning, for clues about the future, for some kind of map to help you navigate the waking nightmare of your life. Rest is a battle. It is a struggle for warmth against the cold, for quiet against the noises of death, for peace against the onslaught of memory, and for oblivion against the terrifying power of your own dreams. Sleep is not a refuge. It is just another territory you must traverse, another shadow-haunted landscape you must survive until the gray light of morning calls you back to your duty. The sickness has always been with you. It has been the foundation of your work, the landscape of your daily life. But now, something has shifted. What was a steady, grim tide has become a tidal wave, a deluge that threatens to sweep away the last vestiges of order and hope. This is the great dying, in its fullest, most terrifying form. It begins not with a bang, but with a change in rhythm. The death carts, which used to make their rounds once a day, now come twice, then 3 times. The cry of "Bring out your dead" becomes a near constant refrain in the streets. The bells no longer toll for individuals. They ring continuously, a frantic, clanging wall of sound that signifies a city in the throes of utter collapse. You see it from the ground level. The crisis is not an abstract statistic. It is a series of small, horrifying changes in the fabric of daily life. You walk down a street you passed yesterday and find that 3 new houses have a crude red cross painted on their doors, the mark of the plague within. Soon, the watchmen run out of red paint. The mark becomes a simple P scrawled in chalk. And then, even that stops. There are too many. Every house is a house of plague. The practice of boarding up the sick inside with their families is abandoned. There are not enough watchmen, not enough nails, not enough wood. The city is surrendering. The fear, which was once a controlled, private thing, now spills out into the open. You see people staggering in the streets, delirious with fever, their faces slack, their eyes unseeing. They are no longer hiding their sickness. They collapse on the cobblestones, and people simply walk around them, their faces averted. Apathy, born of overwhelming terror, has replaced compassion. Your work changes. It is no longer a matter of visiting individual patients. It becomes a form of triage, a desperate and futile attempt to simply bear witness. You are called to a house and find an entire family dead, their bodies lying where they fell, in their beds, at their table, on the floor. There is nothing for you to do but make a note in your ledger and move on. The smell of death is no longer confined to the sick room. It is the smell of the city itself. It hangs in the air, thick and sweet and inescapable, even through the herbs in your mask. The rules of survival are breaking down. You see neighbors who have lived side by side for years, stealing from each other. A healthy man might break into a plague-stricken house to steal a loaf of bread, believing his own hunger is a more immediate threat than the sickness. Husbands flee from their dying wives. The bonds of family and community, the very things that hold society together, are dissolving in the face of this overwhelming fear. Your own role becomes more perilous. The quiet fear and deference people once showed you has, in some places, curdled into rage. You are a symbol of the plague, and in their grief and terror, people need someone to blame. A rock is thrown at you from a rooftop. A grieving man, his entire family gone, screams, curses at you in the street, his face contorted with hate. He blames your medicines, your treatments, ain't. He says you are spreading the disease, not fighting it. You'll learn to walk only in the center of the street, your head on a constant swivel, your cane held not just as an instrument of examination, but as a potential weapon of defense. The dread is no longer a creeping thing. It is a constant screaming presence. The small, desperate choices become starker. A mother with 3 children, only one of whom is sick, begs you for a remedy. You have none to give. She asks if she should separate the sick child from the healthy ones. But where would she send her? To die alone in an alley? Or does she keep them together and risk them all? You have no answer. You see the agony of these impossible choices etched on the faces of everyone you meet. Food becomes scarcer. The boy who leaves your basket no longer comes. The farmers in the countryside are too afraid to bring their goods into the city. The market stalls are empty. The bakers have no flour. Your city's stipend is worthless if there is no food to buy. Hunger becomes a sharp, constant pain. You begin to eat things you would have recoiled from weeks ago. You gnaw on the hard, dry crust of your last piece of hardtack, making it last for days. You drink the dregs of your ale. The world has become a vision of hell. The social order is gone. The economic order is gone. The only order that remains is the inexorable progress of the disease. You feel yourself shrinking, becoming smaller. Your world, which was once the city, then your small room, has now shrunk to the confines of your own body. The only goal is to draw the next breath, to take the next step, to survive the next hour. The slow, creeping dread has been replaced by a raw, immediate terror. The system has not just been strained, it has been broken. The rules are gone, and you are standing in the ruins, a lonely figure in a ridiculous mask, watching the end of everything. In a world that has been stripped bare of order and reason, you cling to the one structure that promises to explain the inexplicable. The church, the Holy Catholic Church, is not just a building on a hill. It is the skeleton upon which your entire understanding of reality is built. It is both a profound comfort and a terrible burden. This is what you believe. You believe that you are living in a story, a grand narrative written by God. It begins with the creation in Eden and will end with the final judgment. Your life, the life of your city, the very plague itself, are all just a chapter in this divine book. This belief is a comfort because it gives meaning to the chaos. The suffering is not random. It has a purpose, even if that purpose is a terrifying one. It is God's will, God's test, God's punishment. You experience this belief through rituals you have known since birth. You go to Mass when you can, standing at the very back of the church, away from the healthy parishioners. You watch the priest at the distant altar, a figure in embroidered vestments, his back to you. He speaks in Latin, a language you do not understand. The words wash over you, a stream of sacred, mysterious sounds. Dominus vobiscum, Kyrie eleison, Agnus Dei. You do not know the literal translation, but you know their power. They are the language of God. The sound itself is a prayer. The air in the church is thick with the sweet, heavy smell of incense and beeswax candles. It is a holy scent, a stark contrast to the foul miasma of the streets. You look up at the stained glass windows, which depict scenes from the lives of the saints. They are stories told in colored light. You see Saint Sebastian, pierced with arrows, a protector against plague. You see Saint Roch, pointing to the bubo on his own leg, a saint who suffered as you suffer. You pray to them, these intermediaries, these holy figures who might be able to plead your case before the throne of God. Your prayers are desperate bargains. Holy Rock, spare me this day, and I will light a candle in your name every week for a year. Blessed Virgin, protect my hands from the sickness, and I will say a rosary for you every night. Sin is the central explanation for your reality. You believe that humanity is inherently sinful, stained by the original sin of Adam and Eve. The plague is the wage of that sin. The local priest, his face gaunt with fear and fatigue, reinforces this from the pulpit. He speaks of vanity, of greed, of lust, of impiety. He tells the congregation that they must repent, that they must purge themselves of sin to appease God's wrath. You listen, and you examine your own soul. The coin you took from the grieving merchant was that greed. The brief moment of pride you felt when a family praised your courage was that vanity. The fear of God is a heavy weight, a constant sense of inadequacy and guilt. Salvation is the promised reward. Life on earth is a brief, painful pilgrimage, a trial to be endured. The real life, the eternal life, comes after death. The goal is to die in a state of grace, having confessed your sins and received the last rites, so that your soul may go to heaven. This is the great spiritual crisis of the plague. With so many dying so quickly, and so few priests to tend to them, countless souls are departing without this final, crucial sacrament. You see the terror of it in the eyes of the dying. They are not just afraid of death, they are afraid of damnation. Their physical agony is matched by their spiritual terror. The church is a comfort. The familiar rituals, the sacred language, the belief in a divine plan, they are an anchor in a sea of chaos. They provide a framework, a set of rules and meanings. In a world that has lost all sense, but it is also a burden, It places the blame for the suffering squarely on the shoulders of the sufferers themselves. It teaches you that your pain is your own fault. It adds a layer of spiritual terror to the already unbearable physical reality, and it offers no practical solutions. Prayer and repentance have not stopped the dying. The saints seem to have turned a deaf ear. The incense and holy water have not purified the air. You stand in the back of the cold church, a man of science and superstition, of scalpels and saints. You look at the crucifix, the image of a suffering God, and you feel a strange kinship. Your role as a doctor, you sometimes feel, is a pale imitation of Christ's. You move among the sick and the dying. You touch the unclean. You witness the suffering of humanity. But you have no miracles to offer. You cannot turn water into wine. You can only turn wine into a futile medicine. You cannot raise the dead. You can only count them. The belief system that gives your world meaning also underscores your own profound failure and helplessness within it. It is the ultimate authority, the final word, and its judgment is that you and all the people you are trying to save are sinners who are receiving their just and terrible reward. The worst of it passes, not with a sudden victory, but like a great fire that has simply run out of fuel. The dying slows. The bells do not ring as often. One day, you walk through a street and hear, for the first time in what feels like a lifetime, the sound of a child laughing. The sound is so alien, so fragile, it almost breaks your heart. The city has survived, but it is a shadow of its former self. It is a place of ghosts and memories, of empty houses and vacant stairs. And you have survived. You, the man who walked through the heart of the inferno, are still standing. And so, a question hangs in the quiet air. A question more profound than any medical mystery you have faced. Why did you not flee? Why did you not succumb to despair? How did you endure? You did not have a grand, heroic motive. You were not driven by a noble quest to save humanity. In the darkest hours, you knew, with a certainty that chilled you to your core, that your treatments were mostly useless. The lanced buboes, the herbal poultices, the vinegar washes, they were gestures against a hurricane you saw. Day after day that the plague took whom it would, regardless of your interventions. So why continue? The answer is not found in a moment of climactic action. Your climax was not a single life-saving surgery or a brilliant discovery. Your climax was the monotony itself. It was the act of getting up day after day from your straw mattress and putting on the mask. It was the act of walking out your door when every instinct screamed for you to lock it from the inside. It was the act of entering another house, knowing the sorrow you would find there, and then doing it again the next day. How did you endure? You endured because the city's contract gave you a purpose when the world had lost all meaning. It gave you a place to be and a thing to do. In the face of overwhelming cosmic chaos, you had a single, simple task: to go to the next house, to record the next name, to bear witness. This small, mundane structure was a raft in an ocean of madness. You endured because of a strange professional pride. You were the doctor. The mask and cloak, which at first felt like a costume, became a second skin. It separated you, protected you not just from the miasma, but from the raw, unfiltered grief that would have shattered your mind. Behind the red glass and the herbal beak, you could be an observer, a functionary, could perform your terrible work without dissolving into the sorrow that surrounded you. It was a shield for your sanity. But most of all, your endurance was not a rebellion of action, but a rebellion of persistence. In a world that was actively, violently, horrifically falling apart, your quiet, stubborn refusal to fall apart with it became its own form of defiance. The system of God and nature had sent a scourge to crush humanity. The system of man had broken down into chaos and fear. But you, a single, small man, continued your rhythm. You woke. You ate your hard bread. You put on your cloak. You walked. You saw. You recorded. You returned. You slept. This relentless, monotonous persistence was your victory. It was not a victory over the plague. It was a victory over the despair the plague created. By simply continuing to exist and to function, you were asserting that a human being could witness the very worst of reality and not be erased by it. You maintained a sliver of order in a world given over to chaos. Your rebellion wasn't in fighting the plague with your futile medicines. It was in refusing to let the horror have the last word. It was in the quiet dignity of your ledger, where each name recorded was an affirmation that a life had existed and was not forgotten. It was in the steady tap, tap, tap of your cane on the cobblestones, a sound that said, against all evidence to the contrary, I am still here. We are still here. You did not save the world. You did not even save your city, but you walked its darkest paths and did not lose your way. You looked into the face of the abyss day after day, and you did not blink. And in the quiet, hollowed-out aftermath, your survival is a testament not to the strength of your remedies or the power of your prayers, but to the profound, unshakable, and deeply human strength that is found in simply, quietly enduring.